In the struggle to break the cycle of violence, many of the strongest leaders in Boston are survivors, including mothers who lost children. One of them has devoted 20 years to that mission through the work of the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy. To tell us about a fundraiser marking the program's anniversary are its founder, Isaura Mendes, and longtime supporter in the community, State Representative Liz Miranda. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
I want to start with Isaura Mendes. I know this is something, you got the legacy started after the death of one of your sons. Lots of people are survivors. They don't do what you did. Why did you start this organization?
Why I start this organization, I struggle a lot. I was a mother who go to work and then come home and take care of my children, and not aware of anything going on in Boston about violence. But it was 152 homicides in the 90s. In 95, my son was stabbed to death up the street from where I live. And it wakes me up. I feel like I was on a type of hole that I wasn't see. I was blind. But after my son was murdered, and it wakes me up. I was really, really sad and back pain. I couldn't do anything for 3.5 years. And then I stand up later in 98, and the first thing I do, I got my community involved with come out to the neighborhood for the meeting, and then after that, I registered 125 people to vote in the community, and bring them to the poll every time the election time is, and started show them a way. And then I began organize many events in the community. I don't do it alone. I have Touchable Story, who she was the one who my nonprofit organization event in 1999. She helped me have something in honor of my son, Bobby, and it began. My organization, after the organization is began in 2000, we organized Peace Walk that we walk for 11 years and right away I live. And we also have Found Your Voice in Peace that we block the street every year and cook out for young people. And we have a community candlelight vigil that we bring people together. My goal is bringing people together, because, sometimes we live in the same neighborhood and don't know who surround us. But the main thing for this year is really powerful because we start to do this fundraising 7 years ago. And but this year, since it's my 20 years nonprofit, Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy nonprofit organization, I'm trying to honor our young people with scholarship to go back to school. But the key is we have to raise money. And I am honored also because Evandro Calvari was helped me for the first time in 20 years that I do my work in the community. Nobody from the city or the state ever really support me through my work. But Evandro Calvari was able to give me chance to honor my organization with some amount of money to do my work.
Ms. Miranda, you're the current representative now, but you are also a survivor, and you turned to Isaura. What was that like for you?
Isaura was one of the first and strongest examples of what you do when you turn your pain into power. I lost my brother August 20th, 2017. He wasn't the first person I'd lost in my life. In our community, many people suffer in silence, losing nephews, brothers, cousins, maybe even nieces and sisters. And when I had that traumatic experience happen in my family, I was able to look at Isaura and the work that she's done in my community. It's such an honor for me as a state representative to be representing people like her.
I think both of you, maybe, if you haven't experienced it, I'm sure you've heard of it. Somebody gets victimized, and there are people in the community who probably know who did it. They're not talking. Representative, how does that shape the healing? I mean, how do you strategize around that?
I think there's two parts to this. I think we have lots of work to do to continue to build the trust between the community and law enforcement, as well as creating safe spaces so that people can speak up and share when they know something that could be helpful. We still don't have that type of environment, and we have a community that has been largely marginalized, unseen and unheard. And until we really invest in eradicating poverty, we won't be eradicating violence. And so for a lot of people in the community, they feel like there's not a really strong relationship with the people that are meant to protect and serve them. So when things like this happen over and over again, they don't feel like they can go to them. So we're hoping to bring, like, having people like me elected to office, having people like Isaura running organizations, having people like Nora Bastian, head of community affairs in the police department. I think we're on our way to create a safer, better, stronger environment.
Isaura Mendes, your strategy, it's in the words in that sign you carry with you, it says forgiveness. You go to people who've committed offenses. You try to reconcile with them. Why do you do that?
Well, forgiveness, it inspired me because my son Matthew, in 2004, he was one of the principal of the 7 Principles of Peace, and he spoke about it at the Christian Science Church, and he was the principle of courage. And 7 Principles of Peace is courage, hope, faith, love, unity, justice, and forgiveness. So my son was one of the principles, and that principle inspired me. And because it's a principle that we live, that is not a religion things, but is a principle that we live in our life every day. So I put myself through those principles, and I found the strength to forgive. So. And 2 years later, after my son was murdered in 2008, I took a stand in a courtroom and forgave the guy. But I was questioning myself, how did I really forgive? And then I found the power, because the guy who worked in prison asked me to speak in prison. And then I went there and I speak to 150 people. After I finished, I wasn't even angry. They were coming to shake my hand, and I was trying to give them a hug, but they told me I can't do that. So I started to shake hand, and I feel that was my call to reach out to prison, because the people who go to prison is our children. They live in our community. If we put them in prison and don't reach out to them and don't teach them a better life when they come back to the community, I don't think that was, so it's... forgiveness is powerful, and I expect people to forgive me. I expect Jesus to forgive me. I'm my faith. I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus, and I wanna to be forgiven. So if I can't forgive, I know I'm not going to be forgive.
Representative, sounds like you're agreeing with this about forgiveness.
I think it's so powerful. Forgiveness is ultimately for us. I sat in a courtroom too and saw the young man who killed my brother, and his father sat behind me. And it was probably the first time where I began to understand that the pain is really on both sides. And I spend a lot of time having people understand that having a healing-centered movement is really what we need. So a lot of people ask me, well, how does Isaura have that forgiveness in her after 2 of her sons and 4 nephews were taken? But because we're people of faith, we understand that forgiving others is making sure that we're able to continue to do the work that we do.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with State Representative Liz Miranda and Isaura Mendes from the Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy. Isaura, another kind of healing, you do this every Christmas time, presents for the kids. Why is that so important?
It's important because our kids need to keep coming together for Christmas and in honor of Jesus again. And we, in us grown up, need to come in together, and we come in together. We celebrate Christmas, and especially it hurts in December, which is a month that survivors struggle a lot with lost one of their children. So the survivors' children and a family from the survivor come together and celebrate Christmas, and I think is a powerful thing to do. So we've been doing it for 20 years. Everything I do, I organize many events. I don't even know how I did it, but it's always happened, and
Well, I have to ask you
Yes,
about one more event because you've got the anniversary coming up pretty soon. So what is this going to be like?
well, this is very exciting because I always, when I struggle to violence in our community, I always say I'm going to give up. I'm going to give up. But it's been 20 years, Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy, nonprofit organization. So, and then all of a sudden we also have a little fund from the state. And all of a sudden we've been trying to give just a plaque to the kids for the past 7 years. But this year is really powerful because we're going to give the 7 principle of a peace, of a scholarship to the young people for Matthew Courage Award.
And it's really exciting because it's happening on April 27th at Restaurante Cesare in our community.
Right on Bowden Street.
I'm emceeing. John Barrows, Chief of Economic Policy for the city, is the keynote speaker. Tickets are on sale now at bmpl.org, right? And we just want to celebrate our community and remind people that hope and peace are possible, and we hope everyone buys tickets to celebrate. And 7 young people will be getting scholarships that hopefully will help them further their education that evening.
Well, thank you both very much. State Representative Liz Miranda and Isaura Mendes.